Welcome. We've had some kind of interesting weather lately, but we're going to talk about some buying techniques as a takeoff from what we talked about last week. Ted's been in the business a long time, and he's going to tell us a little bit about some of the techniques in buying wine, both from a business person as well as a consumer.
Well, in these economic, times, everybody's everybody's dollar's stretched about as thin as it can possibly go. In our last video, we talked about, maybe getting some, quality versus, quantity in far as, price and everything else is concerned on that. And, like we said, it's not hard to spend $1 million, but, there's still a lot of values out there. But what you want to do is, if you find a value in a wine that you really like, go ahead, buy half a case, buy a case. Most of your shops, be it either your big box shops or your small boutique places, heck, even your grocery stores, will usually run some type of case discount. And a lot of times you can mix and match on that. So if you find, say 3 different wines that you really like, get 4 bottles of each one of them for a 12-bottle case. That's still a case. You should be at least getting a 10% discount. And sometimes, you'll even run into where they'll run deals to where they may, do a day where they have like maybe 15 or 20% discount. But just remember, wine is kind of an evolving thing. It's going to be a little different, from vintage to vintage. So if you find something you like, stock up a little bit, but that kind of leads us to, if you do buy a case, Doc, how do you store it?
Well, even the fact that from a couple of different sources, 90 to 95% of wine that's purchased is consumed within 24 to 48 hours, you're still kind of faced with a situation like what you mentioned, and I agree wholeheartedly, is how do you store it? Well, clearly it depends on your situation. If you're at home, then your best option is to place it in as cool and dark a place within your home as possible. And that usually is an interior closet that's going to vary the least amount in temperature, because really it's often the variation in temperatures that affect the wine rather than the absolute temperature with which we're talking. The worst place to put it is next to a water heater, or in the kitchen next to a stove, or on top of your refrigerator, which is going to generate heat and vibration. I've been a little bit more aggressive in my planning and storage, and we're going to look at that in just a minute. But if you can, keep it constant, keep it dark, and try to not keep it warm. Worst place to put it is in the back end of your car.
You mean you shouldn't store it in your garage, Doc, in like, say, a place like Tennessee where we have all 4 seasons, sometimes in the same week?
Well, I've done that, Ted. And as a matter of fact, just last week, I left a couple of bottles of wine in the car. And when I got it out, the temperature went down to 6 below. The cork was this far out of the bottle because it had frozen and pushed the cork out. So no, that's the answer to that. So we'll look at some places that I've chosen. I've done almost everything from actually insulating a room very carefully and placing a wine humidifier and cooler, to putting it in a basement that I didn't realize was going to flood, to actually building another room and insulating, and then the cooling and heating unit went out. So I've done nearly everything, but I think I may have found the solution that works best for me.
What's that?
Well, I've got a couple of wine refrigerators, quote unquote, that are able to keep the temperature between 52 and 55 degrees. And I can keep upwards of 250 bottles in those. So that's a relatively inexpensive compared to what it takes to build a very well insulated cellar or dig out a big hole, way to store wines that you really want to keep.
Well, and when you get to that point that you really want to store some stuff, look at investing in what they call a standalone wine cooler. And like Doc said, you don't have to spend, 6 figures building your own, wine cellar. Be great if you lived right by a cave, because that's kind of what you're trying to emulate is that cave type atmosphere around, 55 to 57 degrees with about 75% humidity. But like Doc alluded to, the biggest thing is just consistency. An interior closet in your house, you can keep just a cardboard box with your wines flipped up on a cork, works the best. But also what works great is going out and just buying you a bottle, getting you a nice, somebody that looks a lot better than Doc and I, to share it with, and enjoying it, and then go buy you another one. Or if you do, like I said, find you something that you really like, buy you a case. Just keep it consistent, try to keep it cool, and enjoy. Doc?
Well, just be aware of the fact that probably less than 10% of wines uh, are really capable for long-term aging. Like you see on a lot of the YouTube folks saying, well, you should put this away for 10 to 20 years. I'm saying 10 to 20 days, or maybe a little bit longer. But nonetheless, you still want it in good shape when you open it and enjoy it. So hope you enjoyed what we're talking about, gave you a few ideas, and keep happy and keep thirsty.
Thanks. Like, comment, subscribe.
Cheers.